oral history before community-based programs. My brother Bernie.
Well, Bernie is my twin brother. We grew up in Washington, D.C., and moved out here about 4 years ago. Bernie was born with cataracts at a time when, we didn't have ultrasound. We didn't know. My parents were surprised that they had twins, so they were behind the ball from the beginning. Within a few months, he had surgery to remove one of the cataracts, and then a few months later for the other side. They didn't realize that cataracts were an indication of a metabolic disorder, a chemical in the brain that wasn't functioning or wasn't present, which resulted that as he grew, his brain abilities diminished. So when they realized that he not only had visual problems, but his grandmother realized that he was having problems with hearing as well, and they found out that he was essentially deaf. He went into a special school before he was 3, and by the time he was 3.5, he was reading, he was writing, he was able to do cursive writing, do math skills, and by the time he was 6, he had lost all of that. And all the way until adolescence, he was very sickly, and unfortunately his cognitive abilities diminished, which is very common with certain types of diseases like this. When he became a teenager, the pathways in the brain changed, and so the chemical that he didn't have as when he was growing up was not necessary anymore, and so he became much more healthy, much more strong, but unfortunately his cognitive deficits were ingrained. Bernie at 61 has lived through a number of periods of how society has tried to deal with the disabled. When he was 3 to 4, the doctors basically tried to convince my mom that he should be institutionalized, that it would be better for the family, just for him, to be put away and just live in whatever that environment would be. And certainly there's plenty of history about what the environment was like at that time. And my mother definitely did not want that. Because he not only was physically and hearing impaired, but also cognitively impaired, they didn't find a niche for him for education. They tried in deaf schools, they tried in these schools, but none of those services were ever able to address his needs. He was sucked into the public school educational system, which with a lot of good intended teachers really worked hard to try to advocate for him and tried many ways to try to help him learn, but with limited success. And pretty much, and I think it's still true to today, you pretty much, that public school system, you're in school till about 20. And it's like, okay, now the family's got to figure it out. When he finished as a 20-year-old, I was able to get him a job in a hospital, and he was cleaning floors within the cafeteria and so forth, and he really loved that job. And then we then looked at him going into a residential home, him and 2 other disabled members, and had a person who was there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He was very much more a person engaged in family and that type of environment. So while that was an environment that provided him a little bit more freedom from the family and developed more of his independence, it also wasn't an area that allowed him to thrive in some of his everyday living skills. The people that lived there pretty much took care of his laundry, his food. He had to very often just kind of stay in his room for most of the day, watched a lot of TV because the other people in the place that he was living just weren't able to do much of other things. And that was frustrating for him. As my parents were getting older, we decided that it was time for him to see just what level of independence he could achieve. And that's what brought him to Missouri. I had lived in Missouri for about 25 years before him coming, and had met people here who were involved in helping with the disabled community, and even in the early 1990s outlined a framework that talked about building a community structure that would help provide him the experiences and the resources to allow him to live a more full life. He lives here in a house very independently. He has had different roommates in the bottom of the house, and they share a kitchen. And it's been a really great environment for him to really develop skills that we never thought were possible. He learned how to deal with breakfast and do laundry and cleaning the house on a level that nobody would have ever anticipated. He's much more active. I'll take him to the fitness center, and we'll go outside and play basketball, and we go bicycling. We have a tandem bike, so he can join me on that. And he's become very active in Special Olympics. He loves the group of people involved with that. And so he has a very dynamic life, and he kind of understands from one day to the next that today's bingo. And, he's ready to get there. And it's just exciting to see him, engaging on a sense of independence and a fulfillment and in doing the things he wants to do and the things he needs to do. Training, he's been employed all the time, and he's now 61. And we're at the point of having been an active wage earner and tax contributor to society. He worked at hospitals with cleaning. He currently works at the university here in their food services area in the student union. So he's been doing that now for about 4 years, and he loves going to work. He is. They love having him there because he's always there on time. He's always, working hard to make sure he does as good of a job as he can. He does have somebody that is provided by the state to help kind of supervise his work, make sure that he runs into no challenges and that his work meets the industry standards. And he has always been highly rated for the job he's done. So it's been just exciting that has been an ongoing opportunity, that he can be gainfully employed, that he can feel like he contributes to society. I can tell you probably the biggest event of his life is to go to the bank and deposit a check. That makes his week for sure. So we've tried a variety of assistive devices to help Bernie with his ability to communicate. Unfortunately, communication is probably one of his greatest challenges. He does go to speech and hearing class here at the university, so he's been able to get some ongoing training for that, but it still requires people to spend some time with him to kind of understand, what he's trying to communicate. We have a computer system that allows him to call his his family. So he has a brother and sister who live out of state. He has a couple of very good friends that he can do video calls with. It really requires to be able for him to see them, because the reading lips is an important tool for him to understand what people are saying. And that assistive device has been really helpful. Certainly, the ongoing concern about this type of environment is safety. And so we have a variety of things that we do to help assure that that's the case. We also have some visual monitors, so I can just monitor and make sure that things are consistently being managed in a good way. And that has given everybody a good sense of security that this is working well for him, that he's enjoying what he's doing, and it's also being safe. I think if it wasn't for, this rural community in Missouri and the support services that Missouri has been offering, that Bernie's life would have never been able to be as full as it has become. And, every stage is going to have its issues, and we're now at a point where we're looking at, well, what does retirement mean? And what does, as he ages and as skills start getting lost, as we all do as we age, what is that going to mean for him? And we can't say we know. We don't have a plan, and it's going to continue to require, community support, support beyond the family to actually, allow for, Bernie in a condition he never, that he was just born with, that really wants to contribute to society and be part of society, being, to be able to be in his own home, at least for a period of his life, makes him feel, like he is part of the community, and he is, making, his own independent decisions and lifestyles and choices. So he's really lived through his 60 years, a tremendous, evolution in how society has decided to try to care for people who are disabled. They are part of our community. They did nothing that required them to deserve to have the limitations that they do. And on the other hand, we all have our own limitations, and we all learn how to make adjustments and still have a sense of control of our lives, even with our own limitations. To me, that should be a standard for all people, and we're fortunate that he has had that opportunity thus far.
Support individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities through the least restrictive alternatives, at home, at work, and in their community. There are many benefits of home and community-based services, including transparency. People are less isolated and safer when services are received in their home community. Inclusive and equitable. People are equally valued. They are included within their community and treated fairly. Equality and self-determination. People have personal freedom and choice. They are assured the right to advocacy, self-advocacy, and due process. Connections. People have increased access to community resources and opportunities. Efficient use of resources. HCBS is cost-effective and generally less expensive than ICF, RCF, and other congregated residential services. Please continue funding and support for home and community-based services for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. For more info, contact us at sb40@sb40life.org or call us at 660-665-9400.